Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Whew, I'm quite excited about today's video. Really excited. Mainly because when it comes to making content about bags, I can talk all day long about bags. Bags are my bag. But what we're going to look at today is sharpening knives. I am a complete novice at sharpening knives, and we are going to look at the Lansky Deluxe Knife sharpening system. So I want to say before we start a huge thank you to Lansky for sending this to me. I got in contact with them and said that I was thinking of making some content for complete novices about sharpening knives and asked if they would be prepared to send me one, and they did. So this is a massive thank you to you and for helping me to make this content. I have to admit a few things. So first of all, because I really want to get into this, so I'll try not to talk as much as possible, but first of all, I've watched a lot of videos on sharpening things, so I picked up lots of little tips on things to use and little things and little, you know, little snippets. But as far as sharpening is concerned, I've done very little. A year or so back, I bought a whetstone. The purists will be like, no, you need to start on whetstones, that's the way to do it, yes. And I was rubbish at it, absolutely rubbish at it. Didn't have the confidence to do it, didn't get my angles right, all of that sort of stuff. That pretty much is my entire sharpening experience apart from sharpening. So I've watched a lot of this sort of stuff, but I've never done it. So this really is the first time, especially a guided system like this. So we'll get straight into it and we'll have a look. Before I do, there's another little thing. Just I know that I do have a couple of young viewers, so I'd like to say hello to Ava and Zach. Hi, thanks for watching. And yes, let's get straight into the video. Okay, we might end up having a couple of camera changes around today so that you can see better what's in here and how it actually works. I suppose it's important to say beforehand that what I've done is I've read through the instructions. Other than that, this has been sat in one of my cupboards for probably about 3 or 4 weeks, purely because I didn't want to touch it. So that this is, I mean, is this easy or not? But it's also really my first ever go at doing this. So we'll have a look at what's in here. The only other thing that I have is, you know, a little toolkit. I have the knife that I'm going to be using, which is the Sword Peasant Mini. I love these knives. And the world's biggest strop paddle that I made myself. You know, there's loads of videos online on how to make strop paddles. Great, so let's change camera again. Before I do, there's one thing that I forgot to say at the beginning, and that is that please stay to the end, or if you get bored, fast forward to the end, mainly because there's a question, some input that I want from you guys, and I genuinely would be grateful for your input at the end of this video in the comments. Let's change camera again. Okay, so let's go through what you get in the box. As I mentioned, this is the deluxe version. There is a standard version which is identical to this. The difference is being that with the deluxe you get these 2 extra stones. This stone is a 1000, well, it says LS 1000 ultra fine, and that is a honing stone. And then you get this LS 70 extra coarse sharpening stone. So if you're making knives, or you really do have something that has taken a lot of beating, you can use this extra coarse one to help to reprofile that. Probably not going to use that today, as my Sword Peasant that I'm going to be using, I mean, I'm going to blunt it in a second, but it's not really took that much of a beating, or it won't take that much of a beating. So I'll probably just use these other stones and the honing stone to show you how this works. In the standard edition or variation, then you just get these 3 stones here. What you also get, let's put those back in, These are in the top, they all fit in perfectly. You get the guiding rods. This is a guided system because when you're trying to do it on a whetstone, you have to get that angle right, which is the bit that I always struggle with, or at least that bit that I did try to do once and just, yeah, it was a car crash. So you have this little clamp that the blade fits into, and then you have on here, you have it's 17, 20, 25 and 30, so they're your angles that it will set it to. If you have a knife that you want to, you know, is more for outdoor rugged use, then you'd probably use something that was more like a 30-degree angle, whereas if it's a knife that you use in your kitchen, then you're probably going to use it on a 17-degree angle, and then there are some other ones in between. The difference being with this is that you just have those 4 angles, whereas if you do it with a whetstone and you know you get your angles right, then that's where the purist will say you get more from whetstone. So you get the clamp, you get the guide rods, you get the stones, and then you also get some honing oil, which I guess I'll get to have a look at towards the end of this. What you also get is a couple of extra bolts, so that there's 2 here. There's one that's a wing nut rather than this one that you can just twist, and instead of using one there, then you can change it to a flat head. Again, you know, it's there just in case you want to use it. So as I say, I've been through the instructions. What I'll do is I'll set these up now. So I'll show you how to do this first one from the instructions. There'll be no editing in this video other than fast forwarding so that you're not having to get bored to see the same stuff. So the way to set up the stones is if you put it down on a flat surface, hopefully you can see it almost looks like a camping peg, but it's a right angle here. So you set it down on a surface like that, so that the peg pushes all the way through and comes to the bottom of where the stone touches that flat surface. Then once it's on there, you then tighten the wing nut at the back. So that will make sure that it's always at a constant angle and the angles are always the same. And also make sure that every time that you come back to this to do it, you're hopefully always going to get the same results. The extra thing, which again, I've not done this before, but hopefully you can see, you know, that bit's higher than that bit, so you do have to bend them slightly so that it's, oh, that's too far, so that they're about right. There you go, that's the first one done. So I'll hit fast forward now while I set these up. Okay, so that bit was reasonably easy. Just put them all here in the order that I'll do them in. So the first one, which is the red one, is a coarse stone. The second one is a medium stone. The third one is a fine stone. The fourth one is that ultra fine stone. As far as grits, these are I guess this is LS, which stands for Lansky Sharpening 120, 280, 600 and 1000. Okay, so now that they're all set up, you then have the clamp itself. The reason that I've decided to use the Sword Peasant is because it's just so easy to be able to take it out of the scales. It's a friction folder and super easy to take apart. Let's get some paper cutting skills. Aren't the best, but this will hopefully show you what it's like to cut. It's, you know, it cuts it, but it's more of a tear. You can hear that it's quite toothy. Some of them where it's probably a little bit better towards the end, but it's not what you'd call the sharpest. And that's me. I've kept it like that. This is something that I've been carrying now for about 6 months. it really does keep quite a good edge, but this is just an everyday kind of edge rather than a nice sharp edge. The other thing that I will be using is just my little tool kit, which is my Vera Tool Check Plus. So this is what I use to do the bits. Okay, I've never done this before, purely because I've never had a sharpening system to sharpen something afterwards. So this is, oh, that feels so bad. So this is a piece of old roofing tile. Let's put it on the edge. So now that feels very burry, and it's not, wow, that's not sharp at all. Let's get that paper back. Oh, it got a bite then, bit of a bite then. Feels so bad doing that, because I just love these knives. Look at that. Okay, so that's possibly the worst that I could get it. So let's put this into here. If you follow the instructions, you need to loosen that by 4. Was it that one? Okay, yeah, you loosen this one by 4. There we go. What I've also done is just got a little piece of spare leather that I had lying around. If any of you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know I took apart a leather sofa a few months back. So I'm just putting this in to here. If you think about it, metal on metal, it's never good. So if you've got a knife that you want to look after, then just make sure you're protecting both bits of metal. Like this. So off the bat, it's a bit tricky. Don't get me wrong, I mean, this is the first time that I've ever used it, so it's a learning curve, isn't it? But you know, just getting used to how to pinch it, how to hold it. I'm sure a few more times through it'll get a little bit easier. So you tighten that bit, and then tighten this bit at the back. See, so I've done that wrong, so that's too tight. That bit should come forward. The main reason I'm pulling it forward is, so this is the clamp here. I need to be able to make sure that I've got enough coverage to come past the clamp. So let's tighten that again just to make sure that I've got it right. So it's hand tight, it doesn't need to be super tight. Let's just pull it back one bit. So it's in. Oh, I realised I was lifting a bit too high there. So we're in now. The way to hold this is you can get a clamp that comes up from the bottom and it sits in it, but what I wanted to do was just go straight off the bat with what comes with it. So you can hold this like that, and then you do the movements. Okay, so one of the little tips that I've picked up is just using a marker along the edge of your knife. And what that'll do is it'll show you that you're getting an even grind across the knife. Hopefully this will work. I probably should have done it with a Sharpie, whereas this, hopefully this will dry. It's quite exciting, but also quite nervous about this. Just to make sure that I'm doing it right. So, first thing that I've noticed is, I put this in and the knife just really isn't long enough. If you can see, it doesn't clear. The knife really needs to be there-ish, so I need to bring it forward. Okay, so it's all part of the learning curve, isn't it? What I've found is putting a thick piece of leather like that in increases the distance here, so that this angle is then changed. Taking the piece of leather out now means that I can sharpen this. It does mean that I can only sharpen it on a 30 degree, which, you know, just for this video I'm happy to do that, just to see how it works. Let's put this back on again. So I've not changed the knife, but while I've been messing around with it, I have took some of the colouring off it, but I'm now using a permanent marker, so that should stop that. Okay, so into the 30 here, and then when you push, so you push into the knife, and you sweep it across the knife as you're doing that, and that will help to take off the metal and be able to get down. So what I'll be able to see is, because I've got this colour on there, I'll be able to see exactly where it is that I'm cutting. The instructions say on roughly, as you're going forward, sweep across roughly 2 inches. This is a 3-inch blade, so I'll do 2 sweeps to do the full blade, and I'll try and count them and fast forward while I'm doing it as well. So on that side where I've took off, you can see I've took off the black and it's took it off right to the edge, whereas this side, when it's taking the black off, it's not taking off the edge, which I guess means that it's not, yeah, it's either not symmetrical or it's not in this perfectly. Again, you know, this is the way I'm making this video, to show you how easy it is, or not, and to get things right. So let's put that in. Hopefully that's spot on. Can I do that? Is that what I can I make little fine adjustments tapping it? Will it do that? I think it's the original grind. So one side seems to be a little bit more than the other. So let's carry on with the 30. Again, so I've watched lots of videos. You're supposed to try and see if you can find the burr. I feel that there is a slight one, so I guess I'm doing something right. I'm going to turn it over again so that I can go on this side. Now I kind of feel like I'm hacking away at this side, but what I've been able to do is I've actually been able to bring those two closer. Yeah, maybe I need to take some more off this side because that bit is wider than what I've got here, so let's keep going at it. This might be grinding the gears for a lot of you knife purists out there, especially some of you amazing sharpeners. But I think what I've been able to do is I've been able to get those two sides to meet. Is that bang in the center? I think that's bang in the center. Now, had this have been, I'm guessing, had this have been a longer knife, I'd been able to put that down into there where I'd been able to take advantage of these two straight sides. But, you know, I wanted to try it with a knife that I'd never done it before, and I've never used this system, so we're all learning as we go along. So that feels, I mean, it feels a lot better than it did. I'm probably not supposed to be testing it at this point. No. Okay, that's useless. so let's keep going. So what I'm doing now is I'm moving from mainly because I've got to the point where the black is removed from both sides up to the cutting edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the medium stone, which is a LS280, to start to then be able to refine this. Listen to me, I sound like I know what I'm doing. Okay, so I think I've got that black bit all sorted now, mainly because I've been able to do that on this side and there is none left against the cutting edge, and I've done it on this side and there's none left against the cutting edge as well. So that should hopefully tell me that it's cutting evenly on both sides, but also it's now symmetrical along that cutting edge. So let's carry on. Just those off a bit. Okay, so sorry about that. Memory card filled up, was full. So there's probably quite a bit that I've been talking or rambling through that you might have missed. So what, hopefully to summarise, there's definitely a technique to this. Slipping off there is difficult. Banging up against there is difficult, but after a while, there you go, I slipped off. After a while, you definitely get into a rhythm, I suppose. Noticed as well that sometimes I'm forcing down on that side a bit too much, or forcing down a little bit on the back side too much. So it's just getting it right so that the whole stone moves across it, and I'm also finding that I am starting to notice the burr a lot more. Just starting to, you know, you can be a bit rough. It's metal at the end of the day. We're not working with silk, so I found when I'm being a little bit more rough with it that I'm actually getting that burr. So what it probably told me is that with this one I was getting a lot off, but as I was going through the different stones, the coarse ones you take a lot off with, whereas these you don't take as much off with, so you need to do a lot more to get them to reduce those grooves. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So what I'll do is then I'll move on to the honing stone, which, oh, hands are filthy. I'm not supposed to put as much pressure on with this one, and this will then take off those really small burrs. If you can see now that the sun's coming out a little bit, but that's got a nice edge on it. This side not so much. I think that's mainly because I probably haven't done this side properly. This is the side that I've been struggling through all the way through this. So, in the light with the sun behind me, I've got a, looks like a reasonably nice bright finish to that. Same on that side as well. So, to finish any sort of sharpening off, you should always finish off by stropping. So, here's that ridiculously oversized strop that I made for myself. I thought one day, hey, if I ever wanted to sharpen something the size of the Titanic, then, you know, I might as well have a decent enough size strop for it. And this is the Giga strop. So, differently with the stroppers, because this is made from leather, if I was to go that way, it would cut into the strop. So while stropping, you always move away in the opposite direction. Right, fingers crossed. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Let's see how well this cuts now. Oh wow. Ooh. Okay, so there's still a few little snags in there, but that's probably down to the fact that I might have missed those. But, oh, see there was one. But the rest of it, there's definitely one around here somewhere, but the rest of it is cutting through. Like I say, my paper cutting is terrible. It's been really good actually. For my first ever attempt at using a guided system, I think that I've done a reasonably good job. If I hold that up, hopefully you can see this. I've got quite a good edge on it. What it has taught me is that now that I've got a decent enough edge on it, I can actually see where the dinks are that I took out when I scraped it against the tile. So if I was to do it again, I know where I'd be able to take those out with some of the coarser stones and then be able to refine that. It definitely is something that I should have been checking whilst I was going through the process. But again, that's just part of the learning curve for me. It's less about can I sharpen a stone, or more about can I use this kit to get something back on my knife. So I definitely recommend it. There is definitely a learning curve to it. There's things that I've learned myself, you know. Make sure that you spend the right amount of time with each of the stones. I don't think that's necessarily something about the kit itself. That's something that you need to learn about sharpening knives. For the more coarse stones, because they take off more metal, you can use those quite quickly and you can take a lot of metal off very quickly. But then they do leave in quite large grind marks, cuts, whatever you'd call it. So then when you go through through the finer stones, you then need to use those progressively longer to be able to take those out, which again, I think some of these little dinks that are in there might possibly have been able to have removed had I have learned that, or had I have done that properly. Also, don't be worried about putting on a lot of pressure. I think again, when I first started, I probably wasn't putting on enough pressure and removing enough metal, whereas then when I got through and I tried it a few more times, then I found that. Hopefully this has been an interesting video for you. It's been fun for me because I've been able to document how poorly I sharpen knives. But as far as using the Lansky Deluxe Knife Sharpening System, yeah, it's definitely a good piece of kit and definitely something that I will continue to use. So thank you for that. Last little bit that I wanted to add on at the end was just the fact that if you got to this point, I mentioned at the beginning, stick to the end, there's something that I wanted to ask you guys, and that is, would you be interested if I started to make some sort of videos to look at the inspiration where I get my ideas from? Being a YouTuber, I do watch a lot of YouTube, probably too much. My wife hates the fact that I watch too much YouTube, but there are certain channels that I subscribe to. I probably subscribe to about 30, maybe 40 different channels. Let me take that off there because it's making some noise. So it's probably about 30, 40 different channels. You know, some are about knives, some are about bags, some are about firearms, lots and lots of different things. There may be channels that you're already watching, so I wouldn't probably do this as a Sunday video like I've done now, but instead maybe do it as a midweek video. Hi, I'm the Moorlander. Here's some of the channels that I like to watch, kind of thing. So yeah, I was just interested if that would be something that you'd be interested in, so that I can help to showcase other people's work. I'm not going to try and steal their stuff though, that's not what this is about. This is purely the fact that, you know, YouTube is a social media, and you know, there's nothing wrong with me, hopefully nothing wrong with me being able to look, this is the kind of stuff that I'd like to watch, maybe you'd be interested in it too. I'm not going to tag them or tag any of the other people that I into the description, mainly because that I don't want to steal their views. This is just for you to get an idea of the stuff that I like to watch. Cool. That was a bit of a ramble. As usual, you know, I like to ramble. This video is probably too long already, and I'm rambling as it is already. So I think it's probably about time to say, don't forget to like if you like this video. I hope you really like this video. If you'd like to see more of this sort of stuff, hit that subscribe button and the bell notifications so you'll be able to see future content as soon as it becomes available. And share this content as well, or any of my other content, that'd be great. Over the last few weeks since we've been in lockdown a lot, I have noticed that my subscriptions have started to really kind of go up quite quickly. So thank you for a lot to the people that have already subscribed, and for future subscribers, we can make some interesting content together. Yeah, and as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.